The San Antonio Spurs are still here. Hall of Famers retire, superstars demand trades, still here. Injuries ravage the roster. 8 new players have to be integrated into the team system, still here. All manner of wildlife, from snakes to bats to, yes, pigeons invade their arena, but the Spurs are still here. And not just here, but winners of 14 of their last 18, sitting at 6th in the Western Conference. I firmly believe that if a nuclear war broke out and nearly every species on Earth was wiped from the planet, Gregg Popovich would still be calmly in his office with a glass of wine. Certainly, the start to the season was rough, but the coaching staff kept plugging, building an offense around the strengths of its players, even if it was out of fashion with the rest of the league. They made a key tweak in the way the team defends, allowing players to better fight through screens, which has had a tremendous domino effect. And they've also gotten some breakout play from Derrick White, who, in true San Antonio tradition, the Spurs found at the number 29 spot in the draft.
Of course.
When White was in high school, the only college to recruit him was a culinary school. But he's been a lifesaver for the Spurs this past month or so, including last night as the Thunder and their number 1 ranked defense came to town. This easily could have been a schedule loss for San Antonio on the second night of a back-to-back, yet the Spurs charged into the game, knocking down every single one of their first 14 three-point attempts. That's insane. That's particularly insane for a team whose biggest stars practically have mid-range tattooed on their foreheads and whose coach thinks three-pointers are ruining the game. And yet there were the Spurs, doing their best Houston Rockets impression. Of course, the Thunder were not going to go quietly, making a fourth-quarter push that was interrupted by... what else? Watch the top of the screen. A pigeon crosses the court. Because this is San Antonio, and apparently the city's zoo has a branch at the arena. Manu needs to unretire, not to play more basketball, but just to deal with the building's wildlife problem, bats and all. Anyway.
Why do you have to be snakes?
Wow. Oklahoma City eventually pushed the game into OT with this Russell Westbrook lob to Jeremy Grant. Russ would finish the night with a staggering 24 assists. Not just his personal best, but a testament of how he's adapting his game on the fly this season. But even he was outshone by LaMarcus Aldridge, who powered the Spurs through not just 1, but 2 overtimes to finish with a career-high 56 points. 56 points, and by the way, not a single one of them earned outside the arc. Yeah, LaMarcus stayed true to LaMarcus and didn't even try a three-pointer last night. No one's done that since Shaq nearly 2 decades ago, and unlike Shaq, Aldridge was a perfect 16 for 16 from the line.
That's a low blow.
When the game was finally done, the score was 154 to 147. Vegas could not have been happy. The teams beat the over by 76.5 points. Wow. But the Spurs sure were, and guard Patty Mills had a great line afterward, calling the win, quote, a good example of who we are. Indeed, come rain, shine, or Steven Adams, the San Antonio Spurs are still here. So, Scottie, how much of a force do you expect the Spurs to remain in the West? Because certainly after the first 25 games of the season, we didn't think that playoff streak was still going to happen. Do you think they're still going to make the playoffs?
Well, yes, just because of Gregg Popovich and what he's able to do with players. And I think we didn't give him enough credit early on in the season to allow him to sort of build, as you said, build the team around the personnel that he have now. And I think with some new acquisitions, as we know, DeRozan had to get him playing well and really get that chemistry between him and Aldridge on the same page. But Pop has done a tremendous job for a numerous amount of years, so you can't expect anything less than some momentum from his team, especially right before the All-Star break.
It's been amazing to watch.
The season started, and I said, yeah, the Spurs will make the playoffs because they're always dependable. Then they were the worst defense in the NBA. I said, this is it. The streak is over. Then I think Jabari Young of The Athletic wrote about this. They made a decision to switch. So early in the season, they were guarding like they defended the last couple of years when they had a lot of switchable type players. They started the season trying to stay consistent and said, ooh, we're not good at this anymore. We got to go back to the way we used to guard, screen, and roll back in, when Timmy and those guys were there with a little bit more ice action on the side to push into the side. And it started working.
Yes.
So the defense got better. And then the other thing, Chris Herring of 538 wrote about this. Bellinelli, his shooting at the beginning of the year, he was shooting something like 35% from the field and around 20-some% from 3. This hot streak they've been on the last 15 games coincides with him coming back to shooting the way we expect him to shoot, over 40% from three-point range.
He had 3 three-pointers in what felt like half a second last night. I mean, he just was just ripping them off. It was insane. And a good compliment to, yes, what is still, Scottie, as you say, look, it took them a while to figure out how to tailor the game around their two stars. Yes, Bellinelli's shooting their threes, but they're okay if they have the lowest number of three-point attempts in the league. They're okay if I think they have among the lowest number of shots around the rim in the league. They just know where they're good at, and they say, great, yes, 3 is more than 2, but if we're hitting the 2s and we're not hitting the 3s, 2 is still more than 0.
By the way, when it comes to mid-range, when people say, oh, 3 is better than 2, you should take 3s and not take mid-range, part of that is because there aren't a lot of guys who are good at mid-range. And so if you're going to shoot 38% from 20 feet versus 35 or 34% from 23 feet, the math is telling you take the 3. The difference is they got 2 of the best mid-range guys. If you're great at it, it's not a bad shot, and they got 2 guys who are great at it.
So they say, right, the art of the mid-range number. Who's the best mid-range number for you?
I have to say it's DeRozan because he's definitely focused on that, and he has expanded his game a little bit, but he's a mid-range player and a very deadly one.